August 1970. 15,000 people are trapped on this hillside. There's horizontal rain, force 10 gale force winds, hypothermia setting in, and 70 people went to hospital. This was supposed to be Britain's Woodstock. Instead, it ended in disaster, but it also helped to launch Elton John's career.
I'm Andy, and this is my wife Claire. When I'm not teaching guitar, we're out in our motorhome, St Chris II, travelling the country. I'm on a mission to take Claire to some of the most important places in guitar music history. There's just one small problem. She really doesn't like guitar music. She does, however, like cafes, food, and a bit of history. So that's the deal. We'd love you to come along for the ride.
Right then, Claire, so this is a story about big hills, big skies, big stars, big personalities, and even bigger weather, and I can't wait to get stuck into it. We've both been researching this one.
Yeah, we have.
You've got into it, haven't you?
Really into it, yeah. So excited about this.
This isn't too far away from where we live, but to be fair, I've never been up here, so it's all a big adventure. Doing this forces us to come to places that we wouldn't normally come to. But we've got a load of locations to get through. We're going to go around in the motorhome and we're going to tell you the story. And we know the story, but hopefully it's going to bring things to life for us. First job, to get to the first location where it all started. We've done a bit of research on this, as we've done all research on this, but we're not sure if it's still standing, so we'll find out together. We're going to make us way to a pub. We're going from this pub, which we stayed at, and if you want to see where we stayed overnight, look at the previous video because that tells you all about it. But we're going to a place called Millbank. Never been to Millbank, have you?
Never been to Millbank in my whole life until today.
And these parts are known for weather, and that's what this story's all about, really. Well, it is and it isn't. The weather plays a part in it, but there's all sorts of crazy stuff. That's not the best place to park. What a strange place to put a car. Right across the entrance, there's all this to do. All right. I'll tell you what though, Claire. It's absolutely beautiful around here. We're in God's country.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can easily hide. Don't have much money, but boy, if I did.
So coming into Millbank, it appears that we're going to struggle to get out and have a look round. But what a beautiful little place. So let's tell you the story. So basically, let me introduce you to a guy called Brian Highley. And Brian, he ran a pub called the Anchor Inn here in Millbank. And the Anchor Inn doesn't exist anymore. It's a private house, which makes it a little bit tricky to film. And obviously there's no sign outside, so if we're honest, we can't find it. But he were only in his 20s, Brian, at this point, and it were in 1970. Now in 1969, there was the famous Woodstock Festival, and festival fever caught on all over, everywhere. Everybody were wanting to have their own festival because it was like the coolest thing that's ever happened. And Brian at the Millbank Inn, Anchor Inn, not the Millbank Inn.
Yeah, the Anchor Inn. He had an idea, didn't he?
Yeah, he had an idea that he was going to do his own festival. And he was going to do it like on a big level as well, not just, you know, have a few bands like what we get now.
Not the beer garden.
In beer garden, he wanted to do it for real. So he got a friend, Claire.
He's called Derek.
Derek, his friend, who were a music journalist. So he got a few contacts, and they got their heads together, and between them, they decided that they were going to do a folk and rock festival here.
Yeah.
Just have a look around. I instantly feel drawn to Brian.
Yeah.
Don't you? Because
his spirit and ideas are fantastic. The fact that, you know,
like,
well, why don't we just do it here?
I mean, for one, the logistics of it. How are you going to get everything through this?
Well, that was something that wasn't really considered too well.
No. Well, at the back of the Anchor Inn, there were a farmer's field.
That's right.
And he asked the farmer if he could have his music festival in his field, and the farmer didn't want it, did he? Because he didn't want hippies and people with long hair and layabouts.
He didn't want hippie types on his land. That's right.
So
just one thing as well. In those days, at the Anchor Inn, it was 8 pence for a pint of lager, a pint of bitter.
8 pence?
8 pence.
Oh, take me back. So it must have been one of these fields.
Now we have a picture of Brian stood in the garden.
So Brian and Derek's dream were alive. They've got a location. The millbank. Well, I think we found the location, but it looks like it's someone's house, so we'll just give you a quick view of it. The millbank, how cool. So we're in the back. Anyway, that's the back where it should have been.
I've been looking at all the pictures of Brian stood outside the pub, the Anchor Inn, and I don't know, but this looks very similar. I think that might be it. Is that it, Brian? If that is it, I wonder how many people drive past that and don't realise what started in that pub. Just love it. I love the story of it. The backdrop's quite steep, which is what the pictures suggest.
Sure.
Yeah,
It is quite ambitious.
Very ambitious.
To think that you could do an international rock festival. So Brian Highley and Derek McEwen, they were dead serious about this. They wanted to, to really make a big, massive festival of it. So they created a company called Northern Entertainment.
Great name.
So with Brian's publican skills, and with Derek McEwen, the journalist for the Halifax Courier, who had contacts in the music business, well, they thought that, how could they not make it succeed?
Try to put us down just because we get around.
Because Brian and Derek couldn't host a festival at the back of the Anchor Inn, they had to find an alternative venue for their first festival under Northern Entertainment. Now, it's worth noting that neither of the two men had ever promoted anything at all before. This were totally new to them. So they put an advert out in the Halifax Courier, which seems to feature quite heavily in this story. A guy called Pop Hurst responded. Pop Hurst was a farmer. Claire, could you see?
Yeah, go.
There?
Go.
And I think Pop thought, well, we can make a little bit of money from this. So he responded to the advert and he said, you can use my land, but how much are you going to pay me?
You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try and try. You succeed at last.
We're in a place called Krumlin. Now, around the same time as this, they were building the M62 and also the dam that were around the corner. This site is actually 1,000 feet above sea level, and it's directly in the path of the Pennine winds.
That's right.
Now, we live near the Pennines, and when they get up, they're not very nice, are they?
No, they're very cold.
So you can see over there. And these winds had plagued the construction of that M62 motorway over there for 6 years. In the same conditions, it required engineers to move 713,000 cubic metres of peat bog just to build a road. The scale of ambition. I mean, we've parked here, we can't stay very long because we're quite clearly in the way. Imagine getting Bantu, and these weren't just like, I don't know, John and the Jonettes. This were Friday night, they'd managed to bag Elton John. Saturday night, do you know Terence Stamp, the actor?
Yeah.
Right, well, his brother were called Chris Stamp. I remember Terence Stamp because he was the baddie in Superman. I remember it.
Yeah, he was,
but Chris Stamp, he was co-manager of The Who.
Who?
And Chris came down here and he said,
he checked out the site, didn't he?
And Brian and Derek wanted The Who to play on Saturday night, and they just went, yeah, all right. So The Who were booked for Saturday. And then on Sunday night, quite remarkably, after going through a load of different people, well, first, they tried to get Simon and Garfunkel. Yeah. But Simon and Garfunkel wanted, Brian in his book said 30,000, but there's estimates of $33,000 And that were in 1970 to come and play it. I'd love to see Paul Simon's face when he turned up. See this. So they couldn't do that.
But they couldn't afford him.
So they went for Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd were coming to play it.
Yeah, wow.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? But there were a load of problems here, weren't there? Council problems and everything else.
Yes, so the council tried to scupper it in its early days by saying you had to have fresh water on site if you're having all the people here. Now, in those days, in the 70s, well, 1970, bottled water was unheard of.
Yeah.
So you had to have fresh water. So what Brian did was he got his friend to put on a white hospital coat, like a geeky looking friend, who walked around the fields. When the council turned up, the geeky friend, they told the council that he was from the water board, or he knew about understood clean water, and then he wrote up a report to send it to them to say the water was absolutely perfect. It was better than what was coming out of the taps in the houses, and the council accepted that, so they got the planning.
I think Brian and Derek were firmly working off a well-known piece of legislation in these parts that's called the Ways and Means Act 1970.
That reminds me of the Del Boy Rodney Trotter story when they have water, Peckham spring water.
Yeah, it does.
Very much like that.
Elton John sounds like a big deal at this time.
Yeah.
But one thing you got to think is at this point, Elton John, he were only just breaking into
unknown,
music.
wasn't
He weren't unknown, but he was just on his way up. So he just played the Troubadour in Los Angeles.
Right.
But over here, he was, they were still launching his career.
Mm-hmm.
But he got booked on, and then Fairport Convention, they were booked on as well. It's just unbelievable that these people got booked. I mean, it's just remarkable at this stage. Back in those days, I mean, it's in news recently about ticket prices. Harry Styles has just released his ticket prices for his tour, and everybody's saying it's just getting too expensive. But if you wanted to come to this festival, it were £2.10, and
For a weekend pass.
For a weekend pass for the full weekend. Now the tickets weren't quite as technologically advanced. There's no holograms or anything else. It was just like you got a ticket that they'd made up.
Brian might have just written on a piece of paper or something, I don't know.
So you could buy it through the advertising that Brian and Derek were doing, or you could buy from somebody else or a few other people that had decided, well, they'll just sell tickets anyway, and they were selling them for £3, and people were buying these over Brian and Derek's, which meant that Brian and Derek have now got a bit of a problem because not all the money that Brian and Derek need to do the festival is going to them. So let's get back in, man, and we'll tell you more about it. Some scaffolding there, Claire. I think you'd read something about trying to get old of scaffolding around these parts.
I did. So they wanted to build a stage on the field.
Yeah.
And they looked in the Yellow Pages, as they were in the day, and the nearest scaffolding company was in Sheffield. Brian gave them the rough measurements, but when they came out to look at where the stage was going to be, they were like, whoa, no, this is going to be really tricky. I can't get our trucks to that location. Plus, there's a load of dry stone walling around there. It'd be a problem. And Brian said, well, just move the dry stone walls.
Night stirs her inky finger in the water of the day. The tired sun drops slowly in the sky, and everywhere the gentle air hangs heavy with the day's song. Evening calls the lamplighter to come. Children's wooden hoops go clattering down the street. Soon they call.
We were going to go into the car park over there, but we can't because there's a height barrier on it, which is fair enough. So we're going to have to improvise and just park in front of this gate to bring in this bit of content, but we're on hand so we can move. This is the opposite side.
Yeah.
And you can see that it's like an amphitheatre. It's a natural amphitheatre where the site was. It's a bit difficult to pick out, but so imagine it's Friday. The festival opened up on Friday.
Yeah.
And as we've just witnessed, the weather changes ever so fast in these parts. You see there, what we're talking about. That's the bridge that we came over.
Oh yes, it is.
And we could see all that, and then the site is over there. So imagine you're on this hillside.
Yep.
It's freezing. It's
Yeah.
August, but it's freezing. We're
Yep.
quite high up here, aren't we? Remember,
Yeah.
it's 1,000 feet above sea level. But a 23-year-old pianist walks out on stage. It's Elton John.
Wow. In Elton John's contract, it stipulated they had to have a freshly tuned piano for him, ready for him. There was one guy in the area that could do that, an old guy. He came on the stage with all the people waiting for Elton John and tuned the piano, and he got a massive roar. People must have maybe thought it was Elton John at first, I don't know.
I don't think people knew who Elton John were, did they?
No, but that's a cool story, isn't it?
Yeah, but after he'd played Elton John,
Yeah.
he said that he were like, oops.
I just stood in that.
They said he were like a male Aretha Franklin.
Ooh.
He has got that powerful voice, hasn't
Yeah.
he? He's one of the biggest selling artists of all times. But then they asked for an encore from him.
Yeah.
And he said that he hopes it dispels the myth that I'm Radio 1 Club and Tony Blackburn's show. That's what he said. Yeah, but the people that played with him here stayed in his band for ages. He got that cold and wet.
Yeah.
There's reports that Elton John were giving cognac out.
Yeah, what a concert.
I know. And then there were the Humble Bums. Have you heard of them?
Never heard of them.
There's Billy Connolly, you know Billy Connolly,
Yes.
and Jerry Rafferty.
Yes, very famous. They were the same night, weren't they?
Yeah.
They played.
Yeah, they should have been on Saturday, but they arrived early, so
Came
they
a day
played
early.
first. And then there was something called Atomic Rooster, and that was like progressive organ type of music.
Right.
Pretty Things, they had a few drinks,
Yeah.
and they were playing drunk, and there were reports of one band member walking into the crowd with a cymbal stand from drum kit. So up to now, our friends Brian and Derek, the promoters of this, are doing all right. They've had Elton John on, Billy Connolly, Jerry Rafferty. It's a bit cold, but it's normal festival
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
A bit of mud. It's just
Normal.
music festivals. What they didn't realise is that what were going to come the following day on the Saturday.
Why don't you just fade away? Don't try and take what we all say.
Hey, I wonder what this used to be.
Looks like an old pub.
No pub. That's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can get like a view over this natural amphitheatre. So somewhere amongst there, that's where Elton John played. Now Brian never actually met Elton John.
No.
How sad's that?
Yeah, it is sad, yeah.
Because we were dealing with press and everything else. ITV News had gone down. Halifax
ITV News.
Halifax Courier were there.
Yeah.
I think Huddersfield Examiner were there.
Yeah.
I mean, look at these. These are views above Krumlin and everywhere in the surrounding area, but you can see just how quick things change. Just coming across here in motorhome,
Yeah.
it's changed, isn't it? We were
Yeah.
just in thick fog and everything else, and
It's lifting now, isn't it?
it's lifting now, but it didn't lift on that Saturday, did it?
Didn't lift at all, it just came down.
So Saturday morning, Claire,
Mm-hmm.
it started like this. It was sunny, and for a few hours it looked like everything was going to be great. And then Ralph McTell, he were there.
Yeah.
Ralph McTell, Streets of London, weren't it? He did.
Yeah.
Pentangle, don't know them.
So did these play?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And the Johnsons, and then by mid-afternoon, it was the band that everybody had been waiting for. Fairport Convention are about to come on stage. And all that the crowd can see is that in one hand they've got their instrument, and in the other hand they've got a beer. Now, what people didn't know is that all this time, while all this stuff's been going off, Fairport Convention have been backstage and they've been getting drunker and drunker and drunker, and now they're angry because they're arguing over management fees.
No way.
Yes way. And now they've got to deliver a set to 15,000 people
15?
in Krumlin. 15,000. All right, I'm going to tell you some people that's in Fairport Convention,
yeah.
because these were eyewitnesses. And they said that Dave Swarbrick's violin was played so fast that
Yeah.
it smoked. So for Brian and Derek, it was a triumphant moment. You know,
Yeah.
things were going well. But there was just one problem. The bassist in Fairport Convention was called Dave Pegg,
Yeah.
and he was wearing white trousers. Unfortunately for Dave, mid-set he lost control of his bowels.
In his white trousers.
Yeah, and years later, in an interview, he said, "The back of my white trousers changed colour very quickly, and I couldn't turn around to adjust the volume on my amp because the audience would have seen." While this is happening, can you remember who I said were the violinist,
Yeah.
Dave Swarbrick? Well, he found a hole in the stage canvas, and
Yeah.
because he'd been drinking heavily, he needed to relieve himself and go to the toilet. So he urinated through the hole, not knowing what was on the other side of it. But that was the press area. And at the other side of where he was having a wee was the journalist from Melody Maker, who quickly identified him, and Fairport Convention were overlooked by Melody Maker for years.
I wonder how she figured out it was him.
So at this point,
Yeah.
it were all starting to unravel,
It
shall we
sounds
say.
it, yeah.
Sandy Denny's voices rattling all around these hills. And then the Groundhogs got up and they did some heavy blues.
Yeah.
But then Derek McEwen, remember our friend
Derek,
Derek?
yeah.
Well, he went to collect the gate receipts. So Derek expected £50,000 back in 1970. I mean,
Oh,
that's a really big thing. He expected £50,000, and that were going to cover his costs, make himself some profit. But most importantly, to cover the costs, these are expensive things. He's got top-end people turning up.
He's got some big bands, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Right. How did that go for him?
Well, when he went and he collected it, he got best part of £11,000 and no more.
Oh gosh, not enough then.
Is about 38 grand down. We've got angry performers.
We've got performers with brown trousers.
We've got journalists that are shunning performers.
Yeah.
And now we're 38 grand down.
Oh dear.
However, we've still got more acts that are still making their way up here. Say we adjust it for today's inflation. You were expecting £50,000,
Yeah.
but that's £500,000 if you adjust for inflation.
So what did he get then?
Well, he didn't get any near that.
Oh.
So remember, Roger Waters and Dave Gilmour's about to turn up.
Oh, I'd be panicking at this point.
Yeah, and they want
And it's raining heavily.
They want $2.5 grand, but he's already been paying. He's got to pay people that's already there. On Saturday afternoon,
Yeah.
so legend has it, our friend Brian gets on the phone and he rings Pink Floyd up and he says, "I can't pay you, don't come." If you're sat in a crowd over there, well, what you don't want to hear is that there's no money for Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd's a big draw. So over the tannoys, they were saying, "Ooh, it doesn't look like Pink Floyd's coming because they're fog-bound in Paris." And somebody actually wrote a book about that. So if you're interested in this story, go and read that book. Awesome. Yeah, so that's what we're being announced. Pink Floyd cannot come because they are fog-bound in Paris. Otherwise known as, we haven't got the ticket money. And just to clear up, there was no fog in Paris at the time. Anyway, the music kept going on.
Of course it did.
Yeah. But they had to come up with like a new improvised management. They were thinking on their feet. The site foreman emerged, but he was the gate supervisor, the beer tent concessionaire, and they advanced money from the bar takings, and they paid the band's travel expenses.
Right.
And then they did this big PR thing, and they managed to convince the remaining bands to play for expenses. So the reason for this problem is because, as we said earlier on, somebody had taken out opposing adverts and selling higher priced tickets, but they were counterfeit, and they pocketed the money. Now later on, they did get brought to trial over it.
Oh,
because
good.
as you can tell, this thing's like growing and it's getting a bit bigger, and it came under scrutiny by like various organisations. So on Saturday night, Alex Corner took the stage. Alan Price
from the Animals.
And Zoot Money, dual organ giants, climbed behind the keyboards, but then the weather arrived.
Disaster struck at this point, didn't it?
Well, it was raining as well, and rain started to drip through the canvas of the stage and onto their organs. There were reports of electrical cabling sparking.
Yeah, Alan Price had an electric organ, and the rain was coming on and landing on his organ. And Brian ran in and said, "You got to stop, Alan."
Well, it stopped him.
He stopped. It was decided that the rain was so bad, onto his organ, electric organ. Yeah, Alan was going for it.
The roadies on the stage then started to drill holes into it to get some drainage because it were getting absolutely swamped. electrical stuff. I mean, you can imagine back then, it weren't like it is now.
I would imagine health and safety was quite basic in those days.
It sounds like maybe it weren't even a thing. At this point, there's Man from Man that's about to come onto stage. And there's Roy Wood with his band, The Move. They're still yet to perform. It's about 10 o'clock Saturday night. But it got that bad that they decided to shut it down. No more bands. It was too dangerous. And that became a bit too much for Derek. Derek had had enough at this point. Look at this. It's so isolated. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's awesome.
And you can see that there's not really much protection from anything. So imagine what it were like for 15,000 people that were stuck on here on that Saturday night. It got that bad, as we said, that you got to shut the stage down. So although acts aren't playing, you've still got the people there. The weather got worse and worse and worse, and the rain were horizontal, and it were a force 10 gale. The festival had turned into like a bona fide, real life survival situation. You got 15,000 people. They've been drinking. Some were drunk. Some were tired. They were all cold,
Wet.
and they're on this hillside with biblical rain, wind, freezing temperatures. There's been various stages and inflatable tents collapsing. It's just total carnage. Well, it's up there. The civil aid came in at 2 a.m. and they started distributing soup from hot boilers. But
Well, they brought soup, but they didn't bring any fuel to heat the boilers up to warm up the soup.
so you got, what's it called, gazpacho? They just had gazpacho then.
Well, now.
But somebody came in and saved the day.
Yeah.
Now, from this story, you probably realise that there are a lot of people that were making money off the festival without actually being involved in it. And an entrepreneur decided that it'd be a good idea to come down and sell orange bags. And if you look at any of the footage and the pictures from the event, it's all ITV. Unfortunately, we can't get hold of the footage. We can't get permission to use it. It's quite hard to get stuff for YouTube like that. But you can see the footage. It's online.
Yeah.
So all you got to do is just Google Krumlin Festival, and it's not on YouTube itself, but it comes up on Google search, doesn't it?
Yeah, ITV played.
ITV did a really, they've got some really cool footage from it, but there's people with these orange plastic bags, and it saved a lot of
They're
people.
like big cagoule, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's no exaggeration to say it probably saved some people's lives. So this entrepreneur, he got his money, and people got to get through the night. It's a bit like Scotland here, where you get pockets of sunshine. Like if you go up into Highlands, you get pockets of sunshine, and it's like in each direction you've got different seasons. So we've got summer over there, we've got maybe a bit of autumn there, and then we've got the depths of winter in this direction. At 4 a.m. there were two conferences that happened simultaneously. Ambulance officers were predicting mass casualties, and relief doctors were trying to convince police to requisition the beer marquees as emergency shelters.
Right, yeah.
But the police hesitated, and they said it was a built-in feature of the police that they do not make independent decisions. But a senior officer finally authorised the double marquee to be used to take in the remaining outdoor crowd.
Yeah.
And here's the most remarkable thing, or one of the most remarkable things about probably the most remarkable story that's ever happened around here.
Yeah.
As everybody were in the beer tent with all that beer, not one person took a free drink. So by dawn, sun's coming up, numbers are clear. There's 70 people being treated for extreme hypothermia, and over 300 were treated on site. But luckily, nobody lost their life. And they said it were a miracle. Places like this have got an edge, and if it bites, you can get yourself in trouble, can't you?
Yeah, you can, yeah.
I sat on the roof and kicked off the moss. Well, a few of these verses, they've got me quite cross. But the sun's been quite kind while I wrote this song.
One thing that I forgot to mention on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Now you might have remembered that I mentioned about Chris Stamp and the Who playing.
Yeah.
And they thought the Who were gonna play, and it were advertised that the Who were coming, but they'd struck a deal with the Isle of Wight Festival, famous festival. Chris Stamp had promised Isle of Wight Festival they'd have exclusivity of the Who
Right.
if they decided that they'd play it, which they did, and the Who played it after this festival. Hence why they never made it to here.
Okay, to Krumlin.
To Krumlin. At 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, it were a sight of devastation. The scaffolding were all over the place, there was litter all over the place, and at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
that's when the management met and they said the festival is over. Now, unfortunately, there were a drummer that were making his way up to the site to play.
Right,
a drummer
on the Sunday.
on the Sunday, and he knew nothing of it, but he was making his way up to do the gig. Do you know somebody called Ginger Baker?
No.
Well, Ginger Baker, I'm sure if you're into your music, he were in Cream with Eric Clapton.
Right.
And he turned up to the site and he just saw a big muddy mess.
Did he
That were
turn
it.
up? Actually turn up?
He actually got there and just saw that.
Wow. So what did you do? Just go home again?
Well, they'd have had to, there was nothing to
Oh,
do.
yeah, I guess, yeah.
Nobody were there. It was just a scene of total and utter devastation. So you might remember me telling you about Derek, and that on the Saturday it all became too much for him. Well, he set off walking on these very moors and he wasn't seen for 2 weeks. And after that 2 weeks, he got himself into Bradford in a daze, and both Brian and Derek were declared bankrupt because they expected 50,000 and they got £11,413, and they just didn't have the money to pay the bills.
And you can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is while you're in the world. Hope you don't mind, hope you don't mind that I put down in words.
Oh, I am so pleased to be off those roads. Krumlin and surrounding area is probably not the best place to take a motorhome. We were quite worried at some point, weren't we?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the end of the festival story. But what happened to Derek and Brian afterwards? Well, Derek ran a bookshop in Halifax until 2002 when he died.
Yep.
But Brian went on to have the most extraordinary life. And I think, although this story is about Elton John, Pink Floyd, The Who, and all these massive characters, for me, the biggest character in all this has got to be Brian.
Absolutely, definitely, yeah. He was a scriptwriter for Spitting Image.
Wow.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
That's not all.
What? No, he did other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wrote the questions for Trivial Pursuit.
What a guy.
job.
Yeah, so Brian's story goes on way more than what we've covered in this, but he does have a book, and we bought his book, didn't we? It's well worth a read. It's so interesting.
It's fantastic, this book. Read it, it's brilliant.
And it, this Brian's obviously not sponsoring this video. We bought this off his own back, but it goes into his life and the whole festivals in there. It's good to hear it actually from the horse's mouth, and we hope that we've told everything correctly. But luckily for us, we've got a chance to be corrected because this happened. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, both.
Oh, well, how are you?
Very well indeed, thank you.
We spent yesterday going round all the sites, and we've took your book and we've done loads of research, and we hope that we've got it all right. But what a fascinating story it is.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is indeed, yes.
I asked you about the pub at first. We weren't sure which was the pub, but we were right then, weren't we? It's that house.
It's a house now, yes, closed down, yes, a pub, yeah.
It was quite a big pub then, that. It was quite a large pub, was
Yeah.
it?
Well, I think they've added, from your picture, I think some garages and something
Yeah.
at the end.
How did you get the pub? Because you were quite young to be a landlord, weren't you?
Well, I was a teacher,
Oh.
and I taught in the East End of London, and then I came back to Halifax, married, and change of plan, basically.
Yeah.
So, got a pub, yeah.
So I'm right in thinking, so there were Woodstock in 1969 and then this festival fever were catching on when you and Derek were going to do your festival. Is that right?
Well, that's true, but I mean, we've seen nothing of Woodstock.
Ah.
I mean, we were really sort of. Derek worked for the local newspaper.
Yeah.
I was running a pub, but we were thinking of running a little folk festival. Yeah, field, but it developed.
Did you expect it to be so big? Was that the plan, it to be so big?
No.
No.
But we had some good folk friends. Christy Morrow's now massive. Well, a huge big star. Then we had the Humble Pub.
Yeah.
That's Billy Connolly.
Jerry Rafferty.
Yeah.
And Billy Connolly.
So how did you get Elton John? Because this is before he got big, isn't it? He was just on the way up, is that right?
What happened was we'd seen at the festival somewhere else where they discovered Mungo Jerry.
Yeah.
And they put them on the Saturday afternoon or that evening. And it cost them nothing. And Mungo Jerry became a major band. So I went through all the albums looking for somebody who nobody ever heard of. And
Yeah.
we paid him £75.
£75.
When we were doing the research as well, and this is before your book arrived, it was saying that the Who, there was somebody pretending to be their manager, but in your book you said that Chris Stamp came to see you, didn't he?
It was one of the... Now, I get confused. I'm of that age. There was Chris Stamp and then brother.
Yeah.
Was it Stamp? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Terence, yeah.
Yeah, and I did have one of the Stamps turned up at the Anchor Inn on the Sunderland van, and I took him up tonight, and he agreed that we were going to appear at Krumlin, but apparently they'd already signed up to do the Allies.
We tried to get down to the site, but with a motorhome, it's not the easiest place to access, is it? It was quite a ambitious plan, weren't it? Did you look back and think, wow, that were a mad idea to do that there?
I don't know, I've done crazy things.
How did they get their lorries down those lanes? I mean, it was a long time ago as well, so it must have been terrible for them, really, in hindsight.
I mean, literally, we had to build a road.
And I've got to ask, so I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, and I know that it's they were said that they were going to play on Sunday night, but I read in your book and it was a little bit, I couldn't quite work out from what you'd said. Were they booked, or was it just rumoured that they were booked, or...?
Let me tell you my Pink Floyd story. My dear dad had a dance band back in the wartime years, and one of his trumpet players joined the BBC orchestra, whenever you call it, back in the day when you had to have like a radio. And I was cheap, and it was summer holiday. I used to go down and sing down, doing recording. Well, not live broadcast with the likes of Pink Floyd.
Right.
I was involved with Pink Floyd early on. So, yes, when it comes to Krumlin, it's a yes and no answer. They were booked, firmly booked, absolutely no doubt about it. They were signed to a contract, and it was 2,500.
Did you ever think about doing another one afterwards, or were that you done with festivals?
Well, I've continued going to festivals. I mean, I've been going to Glastonbury for many years.
Yeah.
It's a process I was last there. But then I got involved with the music business again, and I ran nightclubs in Exeter, and I was involved with bands like The Police and The Stranglers.
It was such a monster event, weren't it? Like you say, if you didn't think it were going to be that big, but £500,000 for tickets that you were expecting in, weren't you? In today's money, it's like £500,000.
Yeah.
That's massive.
I mean, to create anything that is going to bring in £500,000 over a weekend, it's like it's ginormous.
No, it's madness.
Do you know if you could have a word with yourself, your younger self, would you
Say?
advise yourself not to do it, or would you say just do it?
Oh, no, absolutely no. Of course I'd go again.
And you can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is while you're